It started with a whisper, but by the end of the night, that whisper had exploded into a storm that no one in Atlanta could ignore. Cameras caught Kirk Frost walking out of Frost Bistro, his face tight, his voice low, and his words barely audible. But one sentence, one moment shook everyone watching. "I'll never leave Rasheeda," he said, his tone somewhere between guilt and pride. And with that, the internet lit up like wildfire. After years of betrayal, cheating scandals, secret babies, and public humiliation, no one expected Kirk to make a confession like this. Fans are calling it desperate. Others are calling it love. But either way, it's impossible to ignore. The same man who once broke Rasheeda's heart in front of millions was now declaring loyalty so strong. It almost sounded like obsession. The moment came after what insiders describe as a heated confrontation between Kirk and Rasheeda. During a private event at their restaurant, witnesses claim the argument started over a business deal but quickly spiraled into personal accusations that left Rasheeda storming off, saying, "I can't keep doing this, Kirk." Those who were there say she looked tired, like a woman who'd carried too much for too long. But Kirk followed her, grabbed her hand, and said something no one expected to hear. "You can leave me, but I'll never leave you." That single line has everyone talking. Some are calling it romantic, a raw declaration from a man finally realizing what he's about to lose. Others say it's manipulative, another way to control the narrative and keep Rasheeda from walking away for good. Either way, the confession has reignited every rumor, every wound, and every memory of what they've been through. Social media is in chaos. Fans are revisiting old clips from Love and Hip Hop, Atlanta, posting, side-by-sides of Kirk's past betrayals against his latest confession. One viral post reads, "He says he'll never leave, but maybe that's the problem." Another says, "After everything Rasheeda's endured, this isn't love, it's guilt." But amid all the noise, one thing is clear. This is not just another tabloid headline. This is the Frosts cracked, complicated, and still refusing to break apart. Insiders say Rasheeda's been on edge for weeks. She's been juggling the restaurant, her businesses, her family, and whispers of new tension between Kirk and someone from his past. Some say that's what triggered the argument. Others say it was never about business, at all it was about trust, loyalty, and a marriage that refuses to die, even when both people are exhausted. But why now? Why would Kirk suddenly make such a bold, emotional confession after years of dodging responsibility? Is he finally ready to face his mistakes, or is this just another performance to keep Rasheeda from walking away for good? Whatever the reason, the Frosts are once again the talk of Atlanta, and this time, the stakes feel higher than ever, because when a man like Kirk Frost says he'll never leave, it raises one burning question: is that devotion or a warning? The night after Kirk's emotional confession, Atlanta felt like it was holding its breath. Everyone wanted to know what really happened behind those restaurant doors, and the Frost household had turned into a quiet war zone. Rasheeda wasn't saying much, but her silence spoke louder than any interview could. She moved through the bistro the next morning, her sunglasses on, her expression cold, and her phone pressed to her ear as if she was handling business. But those close to her said she hadn't spoken to Kirk since that night. They were living under the same roof, but in two different worlds. Kirk, on the other hand, was trying to play it cool. He showed up at the restaurant like nothing had happened, greeting staff, cracking half-hearted jokes, pretending not to notice the way everyone's eyes followed him. But behind that calm smile, people could see the tension in his shoulders. He knew the cameras were circling again, the blogs were watching, and his every move was being analyzed. He'd built a reputation on being the man who couldn't stay loyal, and now he was trying to convince the world and Rasheeda that he had changed. That afternoon, an insider leaked footage from the night of the argument. It wasn't clear, but you could see Rasheeda standing near the bar, her voice shaking as she said, "You don't get to decide when this is over, Kirk. I'm done pretending." Kirk stepped closer, his tone low but intense. "You can't just erase 25 years, Rash. I've made mistakes, but you're my wife. I'm not going anywhere." She pulled away, her hand trembling. Then maybe that's the problem. The clip ended there, but that was enough. Within hours, the internet exploded. Hashtags like #TheFrostDrama and #NeverLeave started trending, and fans divided into two camps: those who thought Kirk was finally serious, and those who believed he was just trapped in his own guilt. Behind closed doors, though, things were much worse than anyone knew. Rasheeda had packed a small bag that night and stayed with her cousin in Buckhead. She told friends she needed space, that she was tired of living in the same cycle of pain and forgiveness. "I love him, but love shouldn't hurt like this," she said quietly over dinner. She wasn't crying this time. She was calm, almost too calm, the way people get when they've already decided something. Meanwhile, Kirk spent the night driving around Atlanta, making calls that went unanswered. He stopped outside their home around 2 a.m., sitting in the car for nearly an hour before finally going inside. He found the house silent, her side of the closet half empty, and her perfume still lingering in the air. It hit him harder than he expected. For years, he had tested her limits, always believing she'd forgive him one more time. But this time felt different. This time, her silence wasn't punishment, it was release. The next morning, he posted a cryptic message on Instagram. Sometimes you don't realize what's worth fighting for until you're about to lose it. Fans flooded the comments. Some begged him to do better. Others told him to let her go. But Kirk didn't respond to any of them. Instead, he called a meeting with his son Kai, hoping for advice. Kai had grown tired of his parents' drama, but even he could see his father was struggling. You say you'll never leave her, but Dad, are you actually willing to change? Kirk didn't answer right away. He stared at the floor, tapping his fingers on the table. I already changed, he said finally. I just didn't show it in time. That night, Rasheeda returned home quietly, not because she was ready to forgive, but because she wanted to face him. She found him sitting in the living room, staring at an old wedding photo. So this is what it takes for you to notice me? She said softly. Kirk looked up, his eyes tired. It's not about noticing, it's about losing. I don't want to lose my family. Rasheeda crossed her arms. You already did, Kirk. Every time you lied, every time you hid something, you lost a little piece of what we had. He tried to reach for her hand, but she stepped back. Don't touch me right now. I just want you to hear me. Her voice didn't shake this time. She told him about the years she'd carried the weight of his choices. How she had to smile for cameras while people whispered behind her back. She said she was tired of defending a man who didn't defend her when it mattered. Kirk sat there, listening, his throat tight, unable to find the right words. You're right, he finally said. I've been selfish. I hurt you more than anyone should ever be hurt. But I'm not walking away. I'll stay until you see that I mean what I said. She sighed, shaking her head. That's not love, Kirk. That's obsession. Their argument stretched late into the night. At one point, Kirk raised his voice, saying, You think I don't know what people say about me? I live with it every day. I'm the villain, right? But you think I don't wake up every morning wishing I could take it all back? Rasheeda's response was quiet but sharp. Then take it back by letting me breathe. The room went silent. The hum of the air conditioner filled the space where their words had burned out. Kirk looked away, his jaw clenched, realizing he didn't have an answer. The next day, fans noticed something strange. Both Kirk and Rasheeda showed up separately to a filming event for Love and Hip Hop Atlanta, but they didn't interact once. Cameras caught her walking past him like he was invisible, and his face said it all. He was breaking, but he couldn't show it. Behind the scenes, producers whispered that this season might expose more about their marriage than either of them was ready for. Some claimed Rasheeda had been seen talking to a new business partner, a man who seemed to genuinely respect her. Others said Kirk had been asking mutual friends to help him fix things before it all went public. As the days passed, Kirk's words from that night, I'll never leave Rasheeda, took on a darker meaning. It wasn't just about love anymore. It was about control, history, and the fear of being alone after years of chaos. Friends close to Rasheeda said she had started sleeping in a separate room. She's not trying to hurt him, one of them said. She's just trying to save herself. By the end of that week, the Frost home had turned into a silent battlefield. They ate meals in different rooms, avoided eye contact, and only spoke when cameras were around. But late one night, when Kirk heard her crying in the kitchen, something inside him cracked. He walked in, leaned against the counter, and said, You can hate me all you want, Rash, but I'm not going anywhere. She wiped her tears, looked at him with exhaustion instead of anger, and said, Then maybe I'll have to be the one who goes? And that was the moment Kirk realized the fight wasn't about keeping her anymore. It was about convincing her that he wasn't the same man who broke her heart. But in that quiet, heavy kitchen, it was clear that the past wasn't done haunting them yet. The next morning, Kirk woke up to the sound of silence again. No laughter from downstairs. No sound of Rasheeda's heels on the hardwood floor. No smell of coffee. The bed beside him was cold. She had left early, probably to the store or the bistro, and didn't bother to leave a note. He sat there for a long time, staring at the spot where she used to sleep, wondering how something so full of life had turned into a routine of distance. His phone buzzed with notifications, blog headlines, messages from producers, and one unread text from Rasheeda that simply said, Don't show up today. I need space. He went anyway. When he walked into Frost Bistro, heads turned. The staff tried to act normal, but the energy was off. Everyone had seen the tension the night before. Everyone had heard bits and pieces of the argument. Kirk made his way to the back office, only to find Rasheeda already there, sitting with her laptop open and her jaw tight. "Didn't I tell you not to come?" she said without looking up. "You said you needed space. I'm giving you that," he replied, leaning against the doorframe. She looked up sharply. "Showing up uninvited isn't giving space, Kirk. It's ignoring boundaries." He stepped closer, lowering his voice. "I'm not trying to fight, Rash. I just wanted to see you. Make sure you're okay." She sighed and shut the laptop. "I'm fine. I always am. That's the problem." There was a tiredness in her voice that even Kirk couldn't argue with. Before he could respond, one of their employees knocked on the door, saying a reporter from a gossip blog was outside asking for comments. Rasheeda straightened, fixing her hair, her tone switching instantly into business mode. "Tell them we're not doing interviews today," she said, then glanced at Kirk, "and tell them to leave through the side door. I don't need another headline." But it was already too late. A camera had caught Kirk's car parked outside, and within minutes, blogs were posting "Kirk Frost refuses to back off despite Rasheeda's silence." The captions got worse by the hour. Fans filled the comment sections with theories, some saying they were headed for divorce, others saying it was all for publicity. But behind those exaggerated headlines was something far more human, to people who loved each other so much. They couldn't stop hurting each other. That evening, Rasheeda called her mother Charlene, and told her she couldn't keep living like this. "He says he'll never leave, Mama, but that's not the same as being present," she said quietly. Charlene didn't mince words. "Baby, you've been strong long enough. Maybe it's time you stop trying to fix what he keeps breaking." Tears welled up in Rasheeda's eyes. "I know, but I keep thinking about our family, the business, the years we've built." Charlene's voice softened. "And what about you, baby? What about the years you've lost?" That conversation lingered in her mind for days. Kirk, meanwhile, tried everything: flowers, texts, even showing up at her studio to talk, but Rasheeda kept him at arm's length. When they finally sat down to film a confessional for Love and Hip Hop, producers caught a rare moment of honesty. Kirk looked into the camera and said, "People think I'm toxic. Maybe they're right. But I know what it's like to look at someone who's been there since day one and realize you took it for granted. I can't let that go. I won't." Rasheeda sat beside him, quiet, staring at the floor. When the producer asked her if she believed Kirk had changed, she finally spoke. "He believes he has, but belief and action aren't the same thing." The clip aired weeks later and broke the internet. Fans flooded the comments with sympathy for Rasheeda, calling her the definition of strength, while others accused Kirk of manipulating her again. One fan wrote, "He's not saying he'll never leave because he loves her. He's saying it because he knows she's the only one who ever stayed." Another commented, "Love isn't supposed to feel like a cage." The public turned their story into a morality play, but for the Frosts, it was real life unraveling in front of everyone. Late one night, Kirk scrolled through the comments, feeling the weight of his own reputation. He didn't blame the fans for hating him, he had given them every reason to. But what hurt most was knowing that Rasheeda's pain had become public entertainment. He walked into the kitchen, saw her sitting at the counter in a hoodie, sipping tea, her eyes swollen from crying. "You can stop pretending," she said softly. "No one's watching right now." Kirk pulled out a chair and sat across from her. "I'm not pretending. I just want to talk." She didn't look up. "Talking doesn't fix anything anymore." He hesitated, then reached into his pocket and placed his wedding ring on the table. "I'm not giving this back," he said. "Not because I'm trying to hold you, but because this is the only part of me that still feels right." Rasheeda stared at the ring for a long time, then whispered, "You keep saying you'll never leave, Kirk, but have you ever thought maybe I need you to?" His breath caught. "Why would you say that?" "Because every time you stay," she said, her voice breaking, "I remember everything that hurt me, and I can't heal if I keep seeing the man who broke me every morning." Kirk wanted to argue, to tell her he'd do better, but the words felt empty. Instead, he stood up and said quietly, "Then I'll give you whatever you need, even if that means staying away." But when he walked out, he didn't go far. He sat in his car for hours, staring at the house, unable to drive off, because deep down, he meant what he said: he would never leave, even if it meant waiting outside her life, hoping for a chance to make it right. By the end of that week, production on the new Love and Hip Hop season had paused. Kirk and Rasheeda needed time off, though neither wanted to admit it. She focused on her clothing line, throwing herself into work, while Kirk spent long hours alone at the studio, replaying old voicemail messages just to hear her laugh. He told a friend one night, "You don't understand, man, she's not just my wife. She's my life. Without her, I don't even know who I am anymore." His friend shook his head. "Then maybe it's time you find out." But Kirk wasn't ready for that. He couldn't accept that the woman he built an empire with might be gone for good. So when he heard she'd booked a solo trip to Miami for business, he panicked. He called, texted, begged her not to go, but she didn't reply. 2 days later, a photo surfaced online: Rasheeda on a boat, smiling, free, her phone in her hand, sunlight on her face. Kirk saw it, and for the first time, he didn't feel jealous. He felt small. Because in that photo, she looked like someone who had finally remembered how to breathe. That night, he sat alone in his studio, staring at his reflection in the glass. "I'll never leave," he whispered again. But this time, it sounded less like a promise and more like a confession of regret, of guilt, of a man realizing too late that love isn't about staying. It's about doing right when you still have the chance. But for Kirk Frost, that chance was slipping away, one quiet night at a time. The following morning, Atlanta woke to yet another headline about the Frost drama. Kirk Frost refuses to leave Rasheeda, fans divided read one, while another screamed, "Is this love or obsession?" Inside the Frost household, the tension was palpable. Rasheeda had returned from Miami with a calm, determined energy. She wasn't angry. She was resolute. She walked into Frost Bistro, straightening her shoulders, and greeted the staff with a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. Kirk, already there, tried to approach her, but she gave him a nod and continued past, ignoring the subtle tremor in his jaw. He followed her to the back office. "We need to talk," he said, trying to sound casual. She turned, arms crossed, her voice steady. "We've talked enough, Kirk. Right now, I just need a truce, not another fight." Kirk frowned, leaning against the doorframe. "A truce doesn't feel like enough when the world is watching us fall apart." She sighed, glancing at him. "Then maybe it's time we stop performing for the world and start being real for ourselves." Those words cut deeper than any argument ever had. Kirk realized she wasn't interested in emotional grandstanding anymore. She wanted honesty, even if it hurt. He swallowed hard. "I've made so many mistakes," he admitted, his voice low. "And I know saying it doesn't fix anything. But I can't stop thinking about what we've built, what we've survived. I won't give that up." Rasheeda looked away, her expression unreadable. "And yet, every time you say that, it comes with a history of pain. Can you see that?" Kirk nodded slowly. "I see it. More than anyone else, I feel it." Later that afternoon, a friend of the couple leaked details of a private moment between Kirk and Rasheeda to the media. According to the report, Kirk had spent hours at home, revisiting old videos and photos of their family, realizing the weight of every broken promise. The narrative painted Kirk as desperate, but insiders close to him said it was more than desperation, it was reflection. He had spent years thinking he could convince the world of his loyalty while avoiding the hard work at home. Now, he was finally confronting it. Back in the bistro, Rasheeda focused on managing the staff, her demeanor professional but distant. Kirk watched from the doorway, noticing the small things: the way she adjusted her glasses, the subtle sighs she tried to hide, the way she smiled politely but kept her heart guarded. He realized that words alone wouldn't be enough. He needed to show change through action, through consistency, through patience. That evening, they had a rare family dinner. Kai, Kirk and Rasheeda's son, sat quietly, observing the tension. Kirk tried to make small talk, but Rasheeda's responses were clipped. At one point, Kirk reached for her hand across the table, and she didn't pull away, but she didn't respond either. It was a fragile connection, a reminder that trust could be rebuilt, but it would take time. Kai spoke up, his voice hesitant. "Mom, Dad, can we just have one night without arguing?" Both parents paused. Kirk looked at Rasheeda, her eyes reflecting fatigue and hope at the same time. She nodded. One night, she agreed. The next day brought another twist. A rival reality show producer reached out to Kirk with an offer for a spin-off featuring his life outside of Rasheeda. The proposal stirred the media, and rumors swirled that Kirk was trying to create distance from his wife despite his vows. Rasheeda got wind of the story and confronted him immediately. "Is this true? Are you planning to leave me for a show?" Kirk's response was immediate and defensive. "No, I'm not leaving you. This is just business. Trying to show people another side of me." She studied him carefully. "Kirk, when you say you'll never leave, I need that to be the truth, not just words that sound good on camera." The weeks that followed were Kirk made consistent efforts. He took on more responsibilities at the bistro. He attended family events without complaining. He was present without pushing for drama. Rasheeda noticed, but her heart remained guarded. She confided in a friend, saying, "He's trying, but I've been hurt too many times. Love isn't about trying. It's about showing up. Consistently, without reminders. Kirk overheard this during a casual conversation, and it hit him harder than anything. Showing up wasn't enough. He had to prove, day after day, that he was worth trusting. One night, after a long day at the bistro, they had an unexpected moment of intimacy, not physical, but emotional. Sitting in the kitchen, sharing a late-night snack, Kirk broke the silence. "Do you remember the first time we opened this place?" Rasheeda smiled faintly. A memory she hadn't shared in years. "Yes, it felt like we could do anything together." Kirk reached for her hand gently. "I want that again. Not just for the cameras, not for anyone else, but for us." She looked into his eyes, searching for sincerity, and finally nodded. "Then we start small. No promises beyond today." As production for the show ramped up, cameras captured these small, intimate moments, and fans were riveted. Comments flooded social media. "They're finally being real. This is why we love reality TV. Kirk might finally get it right." But others remained skeptical, cautioning that a lifetime of mistakes can't be undone in weeks. The Frost household, though, was beginning to breathe again, cautiously, like a city tentatively emerging after a storm. Yet, the peace was fragile. Whispers of past indiscretions resurfaced online, causing tension between Kirk and Rasheeda. A leaked text from Kirk's past surfaced, reigniting fan outrage and sending both of them back into private negotiations about boundaries and trust. Kirk confronted Rasheeda, saying, "I can't control what people find, but I can control how I handle it with you." She nodded, exhausted. "And that's all I ask for now." By the end of the month, it became clear to everyone around them that Kirk's words, "I'll never leave Rasheeda," had taken on a life of their own. It wasn't just a promise. It was a challenge, a burden, and a mission. Kirk knew that staying meant more than being physically present. It meant being emotionally accountable, transparent, and patient, day after day. No matter how the cameras twisted their story or how the world judged them. And so, the Frosts moved forward cautiously, the world watching, rumors swirling, hearts guarded, and the battle between past pain and future hope continuing silently under the glimmering Atlanta skyline. Every glance, every word, every gesture was now loaded with meaning. Kirk's vow had been spoken aloud, but its truth would be measured not in headlines or social media applause. It would be measured in moments like these, fragile and fleeting, yet powerful enough to redefine everything. The following week brought an unexpected visitor to Frost Bistro: Rasheeda's longtime friend Kashia. She arrived unannounced, concern etched on her face, insisting on a private conversation with Rasheeda. Kirk watched from across the room, pretending to organize papers behind the counter. But every word he overheard tightened the knot in his chest. Kashia's voice was gentle but firm. "Rash, you need to decide if staying means peace or just more pain. He says he'll never leave, but will he really give you what you need?" Rasheeda, quiet and composed, replied, "That's the question, isn't it? Sometimes I feel like staying with him is like holding my breath underwater. I'm surviving, but at what cost?" Kirk felt the weight of her words. He had always assumed that saying "I'll never leave" was enough. But the reality was harsher. Trust wasn't rebuilt with vows, it was rebuilt with actions, consistently, without fanfare. He tried to interject, but Keshia waved him off. "This isn't about him right now," she said. Kirk's shoulders slumped, realizing that no one could fix this for him. He had to prove it himself, one day at a time, without expecting immediate forgiveness. Later that evening, a surprise confrontation changed everything again. Kirk's past associate, a man rumored to have caused tension in previous seasons, showed up at the bistro, claiming to have business to discuss. Rasheeda noticed immediately and bristled. "What are you doing here?" she demanded. Kirk stepped in quickly, trying to mediate. "He's here for business. Let me handle it." The man smirked, clearly enjoying the drama, but Rasheeda's glare silenced him. After a tense 5 minutes, Kirk managed to escort him out, but the incident left everyone shaken. Fans online were already speculating. Was this a setup? Another test of Kirk's commitment, or just more chaos for cameras? That night, Rasheeda confronted Kirk privately. "Every time someone from your past shows up, it stirs up old wounds. How do I know you'll handle it differently?" Kirk looked at her, eyes heavy with sincerity. "Because I'm not the same man I was. I can't erase the past, but I can control what I do now. I choose you, every day, even when it's messy." She remained silent for a moment, then finally said, "I hear you, but hearing isn't enough anymore. I need to see it." The following days became a test of Kirk's commitment. He stayed late at the bistro, handling deliveries, managing staff, even doing errands he usually delegated. Rasheeda noticed, but her demeanor remained cautious. One evening, she pulled him aside, her voice barely above a whisper. You keep saying you'll never leave, Kirk, but promises don't heal scars. How are you proving it? Kirk took a deep breath. By showing up, by listening, by changing, not for anyone else, just for us. She nodded, the faintest hint of relief crossing her face, though skepticism lingered. Meanwhile, social media was ablaze. Fans were dissecting every interaction, every glance caught on camera, turning the couple's struggle into a spectacle. Some celebrated Kirk's efforts, others criticized him for not doing enough sooner. One viral post read, "He'll never leave, but will he ever really stay in the way she needs?" Another commented, "This is the slow burn of reality TV drama and we're living for it." Kirk scrolled through the comments late one night, feeling a mix of shame and determination. The world's judgment didn't matter as much as Rasheeda's quiet, wary trust. A turning point came when Kai, their son, approached them one evening. "Mom, Dad, I see you're both trying, but can we have one normal weekend? No cameras, no arguments, just us." Kirk looked at Rasheeda, and for the first time in weeks, they exchanged a small, tentative smile. "We can do that," she said softly. Kirk reached out, gently squeezing her hand, and for a fleeting moment, the Frost household felt like a family again. But peace was fragile. Rumors of Kirk's old business dealings resurfaced online, and one evening, a gossip site claimed that he had secretly met with a former associate known for stirring drama. Rasheeda confronted him immediately. "What is this? Are you back to your old games?" Kirk's response was calm but firm. "I've made a few calls, but it was strictly professional. Nothing that changes my commitment to you." She studied him carefully, her eyes searching for any hint of deceit. "I want to believe you," she said finally, "but I can't just because you say it. You have to show it, Kirk." The following week, Kirk went above and beyond. He rearranged schedules, personally oversaw renovations at the bistro, and even organized a surprise family dinner for Rasheeda, Kai, and close friends. Cameras captured these moments, and fans began to soften, seeing a side of Kirk rarely shown before. Still, Rasheeda remained guarded, her interactions polite but measured. One night, she confided in Keshia, "He's trying, and I can see it, but seeing isn't the same as feeling safe again." An unexpected twist arrived when a former cast member released a statement claiming insider knowledge of Kirk's past indiscretions. The story went viral instantly, and social media erupted. Kirk, blindsided, called Rasheeda immediately. "I didn't know this would surface," he said, panic creeping into his voice. She responded firmly, "Then handle it, Kirk. Show me that staying with me means facing the past responsibly, not hiding behind excuses." Kirk nodded, a resolve forming in his eyes. "I will, I promise, Rash. I will." Over the next several days, Kirk meticulously documented his efforts to regain Rasheeda's trust. He addressed issues head-on, apologized sincerely, and made visible changes in behavior. Rasheeda noticed, slowly letting her guard down during small moments, shared laughter over a minor mishap at the bistro, a brief touch of hands while organizing inventory, and a quiet cup of coffee together in the early morning light. Yet the shadows of past betrayals lingered. Every minor misstep from Kirk was amplified in Rasheeda's mind. A casual comment, a delayed text, even a glance that seemed distracted could reignite doubt. She told a friend late one night, "I'm trying to open my heart again, but it feels like walking on glass. One wrong step, and it all shatters." Kirk, aware of this fragile reality, committed to patience. Knowing that proving he would never leave meant more than words, it required daily, unwavering action. As the week closed, Atlanta watched closely. Fans speculated endlessly, blogs dissected every interaction, and social media was flooded with opinions. Yet inside the Frost household, the battle between past pain and present effort continued quietly. Kirk's vow, "I'll never leave Rasheeda," had transformed into something more profound. It was no longer a mere statement. It was a promise of endurance, a pledge to face history, rumors, and personal failings while striving to rebuild the life and love that had always been theirs, even when the world doubted it. The following morning, Kirk woke up earlier than usual, the weight of the previous week heavy on his shoulders. He poured himself a cup of coffee and sat by the window, watching Atlanta slowly come alive. The streets were bustling, but inside his home, silence reigned, a silence that was both comforting and suffocating. Rasheeda was still asleep, curled under the covers, and for a fleeting moment, Kirk allowed himself to simply watch her, remembering the early days of their marriage when everything felt effortless. Before betrayal and scandal had hardened their hearts, he knew he had to do more than remember. Words had failed, apologies had sometimes fallen flat, and promises had often been broken. He had to act, consistently, in ways that Rasheeda could see and feel. He scribbled a list of small gestures he could make over the day, handling a few pending bistro tasks, preparing breakfast for the family, checking on Kai's homework, and maybe, if she allowed, sharing a quiet conversation about nothing and everything. Each item was mundane, but each was a step toward proving that he could be present without expectation, without spectacle. Breakfast was a tense affair. Rasheeda joined him at the table but spoke little, eyes fixed on her plate. Kirk tried to break the silence with casual questions about her day, her plans, but she answered in clipped sentences. The room was heavy with unspoken words, every glance a measure of trust being tested. Kai, sensing the tension, tried to lighten the mood with jokes, but his efforts were met with polite smiles. Kirk realized that rebuilding trust wasn't instantaneous. It required patience, attention, and an unwavering commitment to show up every single day. Later, Kirk made his way to the bistro, determined to handle every little detail personally. He unpacked deliveries, checked the inventory, and made sure the staff knew he was taking responsibility, not just for appearances, but to actually lessen Rasheeda's burden. When she arrived mid-morning to oversee a catering order, she paused at the doorway, noticing the difference. "You've been busy," she observed, a hint of surprise in her tone. Kirk offered a small, genuine smile. "I'm trying. I know it's not enough, but I want to help." She nodded, and though she said nothing more, Kirk felt a small sense of accomplishment. It was the first acknowledgement he had received without skepticism or suspicion. That afternoon, an unexpected call from a former business partner added tension. Rumors of past disputes were reignited, threatening to stir old wounds. Kirk handled the situation delicately, reassuring Rasheeda that everything was under control. She listened, still cautious, but there was a noticeable shift in her demeanor. She saw him taking accountability, addressing issues rather than ignoring them or letting them spiral. It was a small victory, but in the context of years of mistrust, it felt monumental. That evening, Kirk and Rasheeda were alone in the kitchen. He offered her a cup of tea, and this time, she accepted without hesitation. The room was quiet, but the silence was no longer oppressive. It was comfortable. Kirk decided to break the barrier with honesty. "I know saying I'll never leave isn't enough anymore," he began softly. "You need to feel it, not just hear it. I'm willing to do whatever it takes to make you see that." Rasheeda met his gaze, her eyes reflecting both caution and hope. "It's not just about seeing, Kirk. It's about feeling safe again. And that takes time." He nodded, accepting her words. "Then I'll wait. I'll be patient. I'll prove it every day." She allowed herself a small smile, a fragile acknowledgement that he was beginning to understand the depth of the work ahead. It wasn't an immediate reconciliation. It was the start of a painstaking process of rebuilding what had been broken, brick by brick, gesture by gesture, day by day. Over the next several days, Kirk's efforts continued. He focused on meaningful actions, helping with bistro renovations, organizing family dinners, and handling administrative tasks she usually managed alone. He even surprised her by arranging a private evening with Kai, allowing Rasheeda to enjoy a rare moment of rest. Each act was small, but cumulative. They were the threads of trust slowly being rewoven into the fabric of their marriage. Fans noticed the subtle shift in behavior. Social media buzzed with speculation. Some applauded Kirk's efforts, suggesting he might finally be serious. Others remained skeptical, pointing to his history of broken promises and public betrayals. Behind the scenes, producers noted the genuine effort, filming intimate moments that showed a vulnerability rarely seen before. Kirk struggling to articulate his feelings, Rasheeda cautiously opening up, and the two of them navigating the fragile territory of trust and forgiveness. Then came an unexpected test. A rumor circulated online that Kirk had been involved in a past financial dispute, potentially affecting the bistro. Rasheeda confronted him immediately. "Another scandal. Why does it always come back to you?" Kirk's response was steady, his tone measured. "I didn't know this would surface, but I'm handling it now, directly. Nothing will compromise us. Nothing will compromise what we've built." She studied him carefully, searching for any trace of deception. After a long pause, she finally nodded. "Then show me. Prove that staying here means responsibility, not just words." Kirk's commitment intensified. Every day, he acted with transparency, addressed concerns proactively, and consistently prioritized Rasheeda and Kai over personal pride or convenience. These efforts weren't flashy, they were quiet, deliberate, and authentic. Rasheeda, in turn, began to respond, cautiously allowing small moments of trust to return. A shared laugh, a touch of hands, or a private conversation about future plans. Each moment was fragile, yet powerful, a reminder that love, when tested to the extreme, could endure with patience, accountability, and unwavering effort. The week drew to a close, and with it came a subtle transformation in the Frost household. While the world continued to watch, comment, and speculate, inside, Kirk and Rasheeda were navigating a private reconciliation. The vow Kirk had made, "I'll never leave Rasheeda," was no longer a dramatic statement for fans or headlines. It had become a lived reality, measured in small, consistent actions and a daily commitment to rebuild trust and love, piece by piece, against the backdrop of a world that had long since judged their marriage, yet could not dictate its outcome. The following week, Atlanta seemed to hum with anticipation, as if the city itself knew that something between Kirk and Rasheeda was shifting. Inside Frost Bistro, the atmosphere had changed subtly. Staff moved with more ease. Conversations were lighter, and even Kai seemed calmer, sensing the growing patience and effort between his parents. Kirk arrived early one morning, carrying a clipboard filled with plans and schedules, intent on making every detail run smoothly. Rasheeda entered shortly after, her presence calm yet watchful, as though she was observing whether Kirk's recent consistency was sustainable. "You've been busy," she remarked, not unkindly. Kirk gave a small smile. "I'm learning that showing up isn't just about being here. It's about doing the things that make life easier for everyone, especially you." Rasheeda studied him silently, then nodded, acknowledging his effort without words. It was a quiet victory, subtle yet meaningful, a sign that patience, when practiced daily, could start to shift long-held doubts. That afternoon, Kirk received a call from a high-profile event organizer who wanted him to make a guest appearance. Normally, he might have jumped at the opportunity, seeking attention or leverage, but now, he hesitated. He looked at Rasheeda, whose expression encouraged thoughtfulness. "Are you sure you want to do this?" she asked softly. Kirk shook his head. "No, not today. My priority is here, with you, with Kai." She allowed herself a rare, fleeting smile. It was small, but for Kirk, it felt monumental. As evening approached, a new complication arose. A former acquaintance, known for stirring reality TV drama, reached out to Kirk under the guise of reconciliation. The media, ever vigilant, caught wind of the interaction, and rumors began swirling online. Fans debated whether Kirk was slipping back into old patterns or whether this was just another test of his commitment. Kirk immediately called Rasheeda. "I handled it. Nothing inappropriate happened. I wanted to be upfront," he explained. She listened, tension easing slightly as she realized he was prioritizing transparency above all else. "Good," she said finally. "That's what matters now." Over the next several days, Kirk's actions were deliberate, consistent, and patient. He oversaw renovations at the bistro personally, handled difficult customer situations with professionalism, and managed staff conflicts without involving Rasheeda unnecessarily. He even took on tasks she usually managed at home, from grocery runs to coordinating Kai's extracurricular activities. These acts, though mundane to outsiders, were gestures of accountability, visible proof that he intended to uphold his vow to never leave, not just in word, but in sustained, daily effort. Rasheeda, meanwhile, began opening up incrementally. She allowed Kirk to join her for short family outings and even let him participate in planning Kai's school projects. Their interactions, once stiff and cautious, began to carry moments of ease. A shared joke over a kitchen mishap, a quiet smile across a crowded room, or a gentle touch that went unnoticed by others but felt significant to them both. Kirk realized that rebuilding trust wasn't about grand gestures. It was about consistently showing up in ways that mattered to her. Yet, the past was never far behind. A leaked post about Kirk's previous business dealings resurfaced online, reigniting fan speculation and media frenzy. Rasheeda confronted him immediately, asking for clarification. Kirk calmly explained, detailing every step he had taken to rectify past mistakes and prevent recurrence. She listened, her expression a mixture of caution and appreciation. "You're doing better," she admitted quietly, "but consistency will speak louder than words." Kirk nodded, understanding that this was an ongoing challenge, not a single moment of redemption. Later that week, Kai pulled his parents aside during a quiet evening at home. "Mom, Dad, I see you both trying. Can we just have one weekend? No cameras, no drama, just us." Both parents exchanged a look. Kirk reached for Rasheeda's hand gently. "We can do that," she said softly, a hint of relief in her voice. For a fleeting moment, the Frost household felt like the family it had once been, free from the scrutiny of cameras and the weight of past grievances. As the weekend unfolded, Kirk and Rasheeda focused on simple pleasures, preparing meals together, helping Kai with schoolwork, and enjoying quiet walks around their neighborhood. The world outside continued to speculate, but inside, they found moments of normalcy. Kirk's promise, "I'll never leave Rasheeda," was no longer just a headline. It was lived experience, expressed through patient actions, shared responsibilities, and attentive care. Each gesture reinforced that commitment, slowly, steadily bridging the gap created by years of misunderstandings, betrayals, and public scrutiny. By the end of the weekend, Atlanta's skyline was bathed in the soft glow of sunset, mirroring the tentative warmth returning to the Frost household. Kirk and Rasheeda, though still cautious, had taken significant steps toward rebuilding trust and connection. The promise of never leaving had transformed from a dramatic proclamation into a tangible, daily practice, one that required dedication, humility, and an unwavering willingness to face the past while striving to protect the future. The world watched, judged, and speculated, but for Kirk and Rasheeda, the real story was unfolding quietly, in moments both small and profound, laying the foundation for a love that, for the first time in years, felt possible again. The following week, tension crept back in, though in subtler ways. Kirk and Rasheeda had settled into a fragile rhythm, but the ghosts of past mistakes lingered in small, almost imperceptible ways. A minor disagreement over a catering order at the bistro escalated, testing their newfound patience. Kirk wanted to make a last-minute change to accommodate a client, while Rasheeda insisted on sticking to the plan. Voices rose, but instead of devolving into old patterns of blame, Kirk paused, exhaling slowly. "Okay, you're right. Let's stick to the plan," he said, diffusing the tension without trying to assert dominance. Rasheeda noticed the difference and, for the first time in weeks, felt a flicker of hope that perhaps change could be real. Later that afternoon, a fan-fueled rumor surfaced online claiming that Kirk had secretly met with a former flame. The post went viral, drawing thousands of comments speculating on the state of his marriage. Rasheeda confronted him immediately, frustration lacing her voice. "I can't keep defending you to the world every time someone dredges up your past," she said. Kirk's response was calm, patient, and deliberate. "Then I'll handle it. You won't have to. I'll show the world through actions, not arguments, that I'm committed to us." She studied him carefully, measuring the sincerity in his eyes before nodding. That evening, Kirk made a conscious effort to demonstrate his commitment in smaller, quieter ways. He prepared dinner for the family, complete with Kai's favorite dishes, and cleaned up afterward without prompting. Rasheeda observed from the doorway, her expression cautious but softened. When he gestured for her to sit and taste the meal, she allowed herself a small smile, realizing that his efforts were consistent and thoughtful. It wasn't a dramatic gesture for cameras. It was authenticity in action, and it spoke volumes. The next day brought a new challenge. A media outlet published a speculative piece suggesting Kirk's vow to never leave Rasheeda was merely for show, casting doubt on his intentions. Kirk confronted the source directly, clarifying the situation and asserting that his focus was on repairing his family life, not courting headlines. Rasheeda, witnessing his proactive stance, felt a subtle shift in her perception. It wasn't just the words he said, it was the accountability he demonstrated under scrutiny. Over the course of several days, Kirk continued to prove his dedication in tangible ways. He handled logistical tasks for the bistro, participated in Kai's school activities, and spent evenings discussing plans with Rasheeda for their clothing line, showing genuine interest and support. These actions, repeated consistently, began to erode the wall of skepticism Rasheeda had built over years of hurt. She started responding in kind, allowing moments of shared laughter, brief touches, and open communication. An unexpected test arose when a former associate visited the bistro, attempting to stir drama from previous seasons. Kirk managed the interaction with composure, prioritizing Rasheeda's comfort and well-being. She witnessed him addressing the situation directly, without manipulation or evasion, reinforcing her growing trust in his ability to handle challenges responsibly. Fans online speculated about the encounter, some praising Kirk's maturity, others remaining doubtful, but inside the Frost household, the impact was personal and tangible. As the week progressed, Kai noticed subtle changes in his parents' dynamic. He commented one evening, "Mom, Dad, it feels different now. You're both trying in a way that's nicer." Kirk and Rasheeda exchanged a glance, a quiet acknowledgement of the progress they had made. It wasn't perfect, and the past still cast shadows, But these small observations from Kai reinforced the importance of consistent effort and genuine care. By the end of the week, Kirk and Rasheeda had begun to find a tentative equilibrium. Daily actions reinforced his vow to never leave, while Rasheeda's cautious acceptance of those efforts indicated a willingness to engage in rebuilding trust. Outside scrutiny continued, with blogs and social media fueling speculation, but the real transformation occurred in private moments: a smile shared over morning coffee, a supportive gesture during bistro operations, a quiet acknowledgement of each other's presence. This phase of their journey, marked by patience, consistency, and subtle acts of accountability, set the stage for deeper reconciliation. Kirk's promise, once a dramatic proclamation, had evolved into lived experience, a daily commitment to show up for Rasheeda and Kai, to navigate challenges with integrity, and to rebuild a family bond strained by past mistakes. With each passing day, the Frost household edged closer to stability, demonstrating that love, when paired with accountability and unwavering effort, could endure even the harshest scrutiny. The following week brought both relief and unexpected tension. Kirk and Rasheeda had begun to navigate a new rhythm, one defined by cautious trust, deliberate actions, and small, consistent gestures of commitment. Yet, life had a way of testing even the most carefully laid foundations. One afternoon, a supplier called with an urgent problem. A key delivery for the bistro was delayed, threatening a major event. Kirk immediately took charge, coordinating alternative arrangements, negotiating with vendors, and ensuring the bistro's operations remained smooth. Rasheeda observed quietly, noting the difference between his previous reactive approach and his current proactive one. She felt a small spark of reassurance, seeing that his vow to never leave her extended beyond words into tangible, responsible action. Later that evening, Rasheeda invited Kirk to a private conversation in their living room. "Kirk, I've noticed the changes," she began, voice soft but deliberate. "But I need to know, are you doing this because you want to, or because you feel forced to?" Kirk met her gaze steadily. "I'm doing it because I love you and Kai. Because staying isn't just about not leaving, it's about showing up fully, every day." She studied him, silence stretching between them. Finally, she allowed herself a small nod, acknowledging that his commitment was genuine. It wasn't a resolution, but it was progress, the kind that could eventually rebuild trust. Over the next few days, Kirk's focus on accountability intensified. He handled bistro renovations personally, ensuring everything met standards while also easing Rasheeda's workload. He accompanied Kai to school events, actively participating in projects and cheering on his son's achievements. Rasheeda, initially reserved, began to respond with quiet appreciation, sharing small smiles, brief touches, and moments of genuine connection. Each act, while simple, reinforced the reality that Kirk's promise to never leave was rooted in sustained daily effort rather than fleeting declarations. Yet, the past refused to stay buried. A former cast member leaked a story online suggesting Kirk had once again been involved in business disputes, reigniting fan speculation and social media drama. Rasheeda confronted him immediately. "Kirk, this keeps coming back. How can I believe that you're really committed?" Kirk's response was measured, calm, and transparent. "I can't control what others say or post. What I can do is show you every day that my focus is on us, on Kai, and on rebuilding what we've lost." She listened carefully, her expression softening slightly as she recognized the sincerity in his voice. That weekend, Kirk organized a small family outing, deliberately keeping it low-key to avoid media attention. They visited a local park, shared ice cream, and watched Kai play soccer. In these moments, Rasheeda felt a rare sense of normalcy, a reminder of why she had chosen to stay with him despite the hardships. Kirk's vow to never leave was no longer just a statement. It was evident in these small, private moments of care, presence, and emotional engagement. Midweek, another unexpected test arrived. A rumor surfaced online that Kirk had secretly contacted a former associate to discuss potential business ventures. Rasheeda, already cautious, confronted him directly. Kirk explained the situation transparently, detailing every interaction and emphasizing that his priorities had shifted. "My focus is here," he said firmly. "With you? With Kai? With our family? Nothing else matters as much." Rasheeda observed him closely, seeing that his actions aligned with his words. Her guarded demeanor softened incrementally, though caution remained. Over the next several days, Kirk continued to demonstrate his commitment through consistent, tangible actions, assisting with bistro operations, engaging with Kai in meaningful ways, and addressing Rasheeda's concerns before they escalated. These acts, repeated day after day, were slowly rebuilding the foundation of trust that had been eroded by past mistakes. Rasheeda began to respond, allowing moments of laughter, small gestures of affection, and honest dialogue about their future. As the week drew to a close, the Frost household was marked by a fragile but growing sense of stability. Kirk's vow to never leave had evolved into a living, breathing practice, demonstrated through patience, accountability, and presence. Rasheeda, while still cautious, had begun to engage with him in ways that signaled tentative trust. Fans continued to speculate and comment online, but the real story was unfolding privately, in moments of quiet connection, shared responsibility, and deliberate, consistent effort. This period marked a significant turning point. Kirk's commitment was no longer performative or reactive, it was deliberate, accountable, and ongoing. Rasheeda had settled into a fragile rhythm, but the ghosts of past mistakes lingered in small, almost imperceptible ways. A minor disagreement over a catering order at the bistro escalated, testing their newfound patience. Kirk wanted to make a last-minute change to accommodate a client, while Rasheeda insisted on sticking to the plan. Voices rose, but instead of devolving into old patterns of blame, Kirk paused, exhaling slowly. "Okay, you're right. Let's stick to the plan," he said, diffusing the tension without trying to assert dominance. Rasheeda noticed the difference and, for the first time in weeks, felt a flicker of hope that perhaps change could be real. Later that afternoon, a fan-fueled rumor surfaced online claiming that Kirk had secretly met with a former flame. The post went viral, drawing thousands of comments speculating on the state of his marriage. Rasheeda confronted him immediately, frustration lacing her voice. "I can't keep defending you to the world every time someone dredges up your past," she said. Kirk's response was calm, patient, and deliberate. "Then I'll handle it. You won't have to. I'll show the world through actions, not arguments, that I'm committed to us." She studied him carefully, measuring the sincerity in his eyes before nodding. That evening, Kirk made a conscious effort to demonstrate his commitment in smaller, quieter ways. He prepared dinner for the family, complete with Kai's favorite dishes, and cleaned up afterward without prompting. Rasheeda observed from the doorway, her expression cautious but softened. When he gestured for her to sit and taste the meal, she allowed herself a small smile, realizing that his efforts were consistent and thoughtful. It wasn't a dramatic gesture for cameras. It was authenticity in action, and it spoke volumes. The next day brought a new challenge. A media outlet published a speculative piece suggesting Kirk's vow to never leave Rasheeda was merely for show. Casting doubt on his intentions, Kirk confronted the source directly, clarifying the situation and asserting that his focus was on repairing his family life, not courting headlines. Rasheeda, witnessing his proactive stance, felt a subtle shift in her perception. It wasn't just the words he said, it was the accountability he demonstrated under scrutiny. Over the course of several days, Kirk continued to prove his dedication in tangible ways. He handled logistical tasks for the bistro, participated in Kai's school activities, and spent evenings discussing plans with Rasheeda for their clothing line, showing genuine interest and support. These actions, repeated consistently, began to erode the wall of skepticism Rasheeda had built over years of hurt. She started responding in kind, allowing moments of shared laughter, brief touches, and open communication. An unexpected test arose when a former associate visited the bistro, attempting to stir drama from previous seasons. Kirk managed the interaction with composure, prioritizing Rasheeda's comfort and well-being. She witnessed him addressing the situation directly, without manipulation or evasion, reinforcing her growing trust in his ability to handle challenges responsibly. Fans online speculated about the encounter, arrangements, negotiating with vendors, and ensuring the bistro's operations remained smooth. Rasheeda observed quietly, noting the difference between his previous reactive approach and his current proactive one. She felt a small spark of reassurance, seeing that his vow to never leave her extended beyond words into tangible, responsible action. Later that evening, Rasheeda invited Kirk to a private conversation in their living room. "Kirk, I've noticed the changes," she began, voice soft but deliberate. "But I need to know, are you doing this because you want to, or because you feel forced to?" Kirk met her gaze steadily. "I'm doing it because I love you and Kai. Because staying isn't just about not leaving, it's about showing up fully, every day." She studied him, silence stretching between them. Finally, she allowed herself a small nod, acknowledging that his commitment was genuine. It wasn't a resolution, but it was progress, the kind that could eventually rebuild trust. Over the next few days, Kirk's focus on accountability intensified. He handled bistro renovations personally, ensuring everything met standards while also easing Rasheeda's workload. He accompanied Kai to school events, actively participating in projects and cheering on his son's achievements. Rasheeda, initially reserved, began to respond with quiet appreciation, sharing small smiles, brief touches, and moments of genuine connection. Each act, while simple, reinforced the reality that Kirk's promise to never leave was rooted in sustained daily effort rather than fleeting declarations. Yet, the past refused to stay buried. A former cast member leaked a story online suggesting Kirk had once again been involved in business disputes, reigniting fan speculation and social media drama. Rasheeda confronted him immediately. "Kirk, this keeps coming back. How can I believe that you're really committed?" Kirk's response was measured, calm, and transparent. "I can't control what others say or post. What I can do is show you every day that my focus is on us, on Kai, and on rebuilding what we've lost." She listened carefully, her expression softening slightly as she recognized the sincerity in his voice. That weekend, Kirk organized a small family outing, deliberately keeping it low-key to avoid media attention. They visited a local park, shared ice cream, and watched Kai play soccer. In these moments, Rasheeda felt a rare sense of normalcy, a reminder of why she had chosen to stay with him despite the hardships. Kirk's vow to never leave was no longer just a statement. It was evident in these small, private moments of care, presence, and emotional engagement. Midweek, another unexpected test arrived. A rumor surfaced online that Kirk had secretly contacted a former associate to discuss potential business ventures. Rasheeda, already cautious, confronted him directly. Kirk explained the situation transparently, detailing every interaction and emphasizing that his priorities had shifted. "My focus is here," he said firmly. "With you, with Kai, with our family. Nothing else matters as much." Rasheeda observed him closely, seeing that his actions aligned with his words. Her guarded demeanor softened incrementally, though caution remained. Over the next several days, Kirk continued to demonstrate his commitment through consistent, tangible actions, assisting with bistro operations, engaging with Kai in meaningful ways, and addressing Rasheeda's concerns before they escalated. These acts, repeated day after day, were slowly rebuilding the foundation of trust that had been eroded by past mistakes. Rasheeda began to respond, allowing moments of laughter, small gestures of affection, and honest dialogue about their future. As the week drew to a close, the Frost household was marked by a fragile but growing sense of stability. Kirk's vow to never leave had evolved into a living, breathing practice, demonstrated through patience, accountability, and presence. Rasheeda, while still cautious, had begun to engage with him in ways that signaled tentative trust. Fans continued to speculate and comment online. But the real story was unfolding privately, in moments of quiet connection, shared responsibility, and commitment through consistent, tangible actions, assisting with bistro operations, engaging with Kai in meaningful ways, and addressing Rasheeda's concerns before they escalated. These acts, repeated day after day, were slowly rebuilding the foundation of trust that had been eroded by past mistakes. Rasheeda began to respond, allowing moments of laughter, small gestures of affection, and honest dialogue about their future. As the week drew to a close, the Frost household was marked by a fragile but growing sense of stability. Kirk's vow to never leave had evolved into a living, breathing practice, demonstrated through patience, accountability, and presence. Rasheeda, while still cautious, had begun to engage with him in ways that signaled tentative trust. Fans continued to speculate and comment online. But the real story was unfolding privately, in moments of quiet connection, shared responsibility, and deliberate, consistent effort. This period marked a significant turning point. Kirk's commitment was no longer performative or reactive, it was deliberate, accountable, and ongoing. Each small action, each moment of presence, reinforced the reality that his vow to never leave Rasheeda was not just words for headlines, but a lived commitment that would shape their marriage moving forward, slowly healing the fractures of the past and redefining the narrative of their family life. The following days brought both hope and unforeseen challenges. Kirk and Rasheeda had settled into a rhythm defined by cautious trust, but the slightest misstep threatened to unravel the fragile balance. One morning, a miscommunication about a catering order caused tension between them. Kirk, rather than reacting defensively as he might have in the past, paused and listened carefully. "Okay, you're right," he admitted calmly. "Let's adjust it together." Rasheeda, surprised by his measured response, allowed herself a small smile. It was a reminder that change, though gradual, was possible when effort was consistent and genuine. Later that week, a social media post went viral, alleging Kirk had been secretly involved in business dealings with an old associate known for stirring drama. Fans erupted, debating whether Kirk's commitment to Rasheeda was sincere or performative. Rasheeda confronted him, frustration clear in her voice. "Why does your past keep invading our present?" Kirk responded with calm conviction, "Because the past exists, but it doesn't define us now. I'm choosing you, every day, in every way." Her eyes softened slightly, recognizing the effort behind his words. Kirk began taking even more deliberate steps to rebuild trust. He managed all bistro operations personally, coordinated renovations, and ensured that staff knew he was fully accountable. He participated in Kai's school projects and sports events, showing active interest in their family life. Rasheeda, while still guarded, began responding with small gestures of engagement, sharing laughs, brief touches, and moments of honest conversation. Each interaction reinforced Kirk's vow to never leave, turning words into consistent, tangible actions. An unexpected challenge arose when a former reality TV cast member reached out, attempting to provoke tension between Kirk and Rasheeda. Kirk handled the encounter professionally and privately, shielding Rasheeda from unnecessary drama. She observed him calmly managing the situation and felt a subtle reassurance. It wasn't the fans' opinion that mattered, it was the integrity and reliability he displayed when no one was watching. One evening, Kai approached them during a quiet moment at home. "Mom, Dad, it feels like things are changing. Can we just have one weekend together? No cameras, no drama." Both parents exchanged a glance. Kirk reached for Rasheeda's hand gently, and she allowed herself a small nod. The weekend unfolded with simple, intimate activities, cooking together, helping Kai with homework, and enjoying peaceful walks. For the first time in months, the household felt like a family, free from the pressures of public scrutiny and past mistakes. Midweek, another rumor emerged online about Kirk's past financial dealings, threatening to stir public drama. Rasheeda, noticing the tension, confronted him. Kirk responded transparently, explaining every detail and emphasizing that his focus was on repairing their family life. "I'm here, with you, with Kai. Nothing else matters as much," he said firmly. Rasheeda observed him closely and, for the first time in a while, felt a measure of relief. His actions were aligning with his words. Over the next several days, Kirk maintained a relentless focus on accountability and presence. He continued overseeing the bistro, engaged actively in family life, and prioritized Rasheeda's comfort and peace. Small moments, shared laughter, gestures of support, and quiet conversations gradually reinforced the bond between them. Rasheeda began opening up incrementally, allowing moments of trust, vulnerability, and even joy to return. By the end of the week, the Frost household had found a tentative equilibrium. Kirk's vow to never leave had evolved from dramatic proclamation into lived reality, expressed through daily, consistent actions. Rasheeda's guarded acceptance of his effort signaled that rebuilding trust was possible. Even after years of doubt and betrayal, the world outside continued to speculate and comment, but within the home, the story was one of quiet reconciliation, patient effort, and the slow, deliberate rebuilding of love and family connection. This chapter marked a significant turning point. Kirk's commitment was no longer performative or reactive, it was deliberate, accountable, and ongoing. Each small act, each careful interaction, demonstrated that his vow to never leave Rasheeda was not a fleeting promise for the cameras, but a genuine lived commitment to heal past wounds, protect their family, and reshape the narrative of their marriage, one consistent effort at a time. As the days unfolded, Kirk and Rasheeda found themselves navigating a delicate balance between private life and public scrutiny. Each morning began with intentional routines, Kirk overseeing bistro operations, ensuring staff were prepared, and handling logistical issues before they could escalate. Rasheeda observed quietly, noting the subtle but consistent changes in his approach. No longer reactive, Kirk was proactive, taking responsibility for tasks that had previously caused tension and demonstrating a level of accountability that had been absent for years. One afternoon, a minor disagreement arose over a catering client's special request. In the past, this might have sparked an argument, but Kirk listened fully, weighed Rasheeda's input, and suggested a compromise. "Let's do it your way," he said calmly, "and I'll manage the adjustments with the staff." Rasheeda, surprised by his willingness to yield without defensiveness, felt a flicker of relief. It was proof that his vow to never leave was being lived through patience, humility, and deliberate choices. Later that evening, an online post speculated about Kirk reconnecting with a former associate, threatening to ignite social media drama. Rasheeda confronted him immediately. Kirk responded with transparency, outlining every interaction and emphasizing that his priorities had shifted entirely to family. "I'm focused on you and Kai," he said. "Nothing else matters as much." Rasheeda, seeing his consistent behavior over days and weeks, allowed herself a cautious sense of reassurance. The words were backed by action, and that mattered more than the rumors swirling online. Kirk also began investing time in building emotional intimacy. He spent quiet evenings discussing future plans, listening actively, and engaging in conversations that required vulnerability. Rasheeda, initially hesitant, responded in kind, sharing thoughts and feelings she had previously withheld. Each dialogue, small as it seemed, reinforced their connection, bridging gaps left by years of miscommunication and mistrust. Kai, observing these moments, noted the subtle warmth returning to his parents' interactions and commented with a hopeful, "It feels like we're a team again." An unexpected test came when a former reality TV cast member attempted to provoke a scene for online content. Kirk managed the encounter calmly, prioritizing Rasheeda's comfort while addressing the situation firmly and privately. She witnessed his composed handling of the incident and felt reassured. It was a reminder that commitment wasn't just about presence, it was about navigating challenges with integrity, especially when no one else was watching. Weekend family activities became an essential component of rebuilding trust. Simple moments preparing meals together, helping Kai with school projects, and enjoying local outings allowed Rasheeda to experience Kirk's dedication in tangible ways. Each day, Kirk's presence, attentiveness, and consistent effort reinforced the reality of his vow to never leave. These private, authentic experiences countered the noise of public speculation, allowing them to focus on healing the fractures in their family. As the week drew to a close, Kirk and Rasheeda's relationship had evolved into a more stable, resilient state. Their interactions were defined by patience, accountability, and deliberate engagement, while the past and public opinion continued to cast shadows. Inside the Frost household, trust was gradually being restored. Kirk's vow to never leave Rasheeda was no longer performative. It had become lived experience, expressed through consistent actions and meaningful engagement. This period marked a turning point. Every small gesture, every deliberate choice, reinforced the stability of their marriage. Rasheeda's cautious acceptance of Kirk's effort demonstrated that rebuilding trust was possible. Even after years of disappointment and public scrutiny, the narrative of the Frost household, once dominated by speculation and scandal, began to shift toward one of reconciliation, accountability, and the enduring power of patient, deliberate commitment. The following days brought a mixture of calm and subtle tension. As Kirk and Rasheeda continued to navigate their evolving dynamic, mornings were structured with deliberate purpose, Kirk overseeing the bistro, coordinating staff, and addressing operational issues before they could escalate, while Rasheeda observed his methods, noting the consistent changes in his approach. Unlike the reactive patterns of the past, Kirk now acted with foresight, demonstrating a level of responsibility that had long been absent. One afternoon, a minor disagreement arose about an upcoming catering event. Previously, such a situation might have triggered a heated exchange, but Kirk approached it differently. "I see your point," he said calmly. "Let's handle it together." Rasheeda, taken aback by his measured response, allowed herself a small nod of approval. The tension eased, replaced by a growing awareness that Kirk's vow to never leave her was being lived through consistent, thoughtful actions rather than mere words. Later that evening, social media erupted over a rumor suggesting Kirk had reconnected with a former associate. Rasheeda confronted him, tension in her voice. Kirk responded with complete transparency, detailing every interaction and reiterating that his priorities had shifted entirely to his family. "My focus is on you and Kai," he said firmly. "Everything else is secondary." Seeing the sincerity in his eyes and recognizing the pattern of his recent behavior, Rasheeda allowed herself a cautious sense of reassurance. Kirk also invested time in rebuilding emotional intimacy. Quiet evenings became opportunities for genuine conversation, sharing thoughts, discussing future plans, and engaging in honest dialogue. Rasheeda, initially hesitant, began to reciprocate, gradually opening up and rebuilding a sense of connection that had been strained over the years. Kai, observing these subtle changes, remarked with a hopeful smile, "It feels like we're really a family again." An unexpected test arrived when a former reality TV cast member attempted to provoke drama. Kirk managed the situation discreetly and professionally, protecting Rasheeda from unnecessary stress. She observed his composure and commitment, realizing that true dedication required action under pressure, not just words. It was a quiet but powerful demonstration of his vow in practice. Weekend family activities became a cornerstone of rebuilding trust. Simple, private moments preparing meals together, helping Kai with school projects, or taking leisurely walks allowed Rasheeda to experience Kirk's commitment tangibly. Each consistent action reinforced that his promise to never leave was rooted in real effort, fostering the slow but steady restoration of trust. As the week progressed, the Frost household achieved a fragile but growing equilibrium. Kirk's dedication, expressed through deliberate, accountable actions, began to counteract the lingering skepticism Rasheeda had held for years. Small gestures, daily consistency, and genuine attentiveness reshaped the dynamic between them, offering tangible proof that his vow to never leave was not performative, but a lived reality. By the end of the week, the relationship between Kirk and Rasheeda had begun to stabilize. Trust, while still cautious, was gradually being rebuilt. Each interaction, whether private conversation, shared responsibility, or small act of care, strengthened the foundation of their marriage. Public speculation and past mistakes still loomed, but within the home, a narrative of accountability, patience, and deliberate commitment was emerging, signaling a hopeful path forward for the Frost family. The following week, Kirk and Rasheeda faced yet another set of challenges, testing the durability of their renewed efforts. Mornings began with Kirk taking responsibility for the bistro's operations, meticulously coordinating staff, troubleshooting supply issues, and ensuring that each day started smoothly. Rasheeda observed quietly, noticing the consistency in his approach and the thoughtfulness in his actions. This was not the Kirk of the past, reactive, defensive, or dismissive, but a version actively committed to making things work. One afternoon, a miscommunication regarding a high-profile client's order threatened to ignite tension. Previously, such conflicts might have escalated into arguments that drew in staff and family alike. But Kirk handled it with calm decisiveness. "I understand your concern," he said to Rasheeda. "Let's find a solution together." She felt a quiet relief and a flicker of trust, seeing that his vow to never leave was being expressed in tangible, daily actions. That evening, social media buzzed with speculation, fueled by a post alleging Kirk had secretly contacted a former associate known for drama. Rasheeda, concerned, confronted him. Kirk responded with full transparency, detailing each interaction and emphasizing that his focus was entirely on family. "Everything else is secondary," he explained. "My priority is you and Kai." Rasheeda's guarded demeanor softened, recognizing that his words were now matched by consistent behavior over days and weeks. Over the next several days, Kirk intensified efforts to reinforce trust. He engaged actively with Kai in school projects and sports, participated in family planning, and maintained open, honest dialogue with Rasheeda. Small gestures, shared laughter, subtle touches, and moments of quiet conversation gradually restored intimacy and connection. Rasheeda, while still cautious, began to respond in kind, tentatively sharing her thoughts and feelings, creating spaces for dialogue and understanding. An unexpected test came when a former reality TV cast member attempted to provoke drama. Kirk handled the situation calmly and discreetly, shielding Rasheeda from unnecessary stress. Witnessing his composed response reinforced her perception of his commitment. It became increasingly clear that Kirk's dedication was about integrity and presence, not performative gestures for public consumption. Weekend activities were intentionally private, focusing on family cohesion rather than public attention. Cooking together, helping Kai with schoolwork, and enjoying walks around the neighborhood allowed Rasheeda to witness Kirk's dedication firsthand. Each consistent, deliberate action further validated his vow to never leave, providing tangible proof of his commitment. By midweek, the Frost household was navigating a more stable, measured rhythm. Kirk's consistent efforts, expressed through responsibility, presence, and active participation, slowly eroded the skepticism that had long shadowed Rasheeda's trust. She allowed herself incremental moments of warmth, laughter, and connection, signaling that the process of rebuilding was taking root. As the week drew to a close, the Frost household had achieved a fragile but meaningful equilibrium. Kirk's vow to never leave Rasheeda was no longer performative, it had become a lived reality, expressed through deliberate, accountable actions. The public continued to speculate, but within the home, trust and connection were gradually being restored. Each thoughtful gesture and consistent effort strengthened the foundation of their marriage, signaling a slow but steady path toward reconciliation, stability, and the possibility of a more resilient, unified family life. The following weeks became a defining chapter in the Frost household. A period where the past and present collided in ways that tested the durability of Kirk and Rasheeda's commitment to each other. Mornings were deliberate and intentional, with Kirk taking charge of bistro operations, meticulously coordinating staff schedules, and handling logistical issues that could easily become points of tension. Every small decision, every interaction, became a testament to his vow to never leave Rasheeda. A promise no longer confined to words, but lived through consistent, measurable effort. Rasheeda observed him quietly, noting the subtle changes in his approach, the thoughtfulness in his actions, and the patience that had previously been absent. She felt a cautious optimism, though old doubts lingered like shadows, ready to resurface at the slightest sign of inconsistency. One afternoon, a minor miscommunication regarding a high-profile catering client threatened to ignite old patterns of conflict. In the past, such an incident might have escalated into a heated argument, pulling in staff and family members alike. This time, Kirk approached the situation differently. He took a step back, listened to Rasheeda's perspective, and suggested a compromise that addressed her concerns while maintaining operational efficiency. "You're right," he said calmly. "Let's do it your way, and I'll handle the adjustments with the staff." Rasheeda felt a rare relief and allowed herself a small smile. A subtle acknowledgement that his vow was being expressed in meaningful action rather than empty rhetoric. That evening, social media erupted with speculation fueled by a viral post, alleging Kirk had secretly contacted a former associate known for stirring drama. Rasheeda, her patience stretched thin by weeks of vigilance, confronted him immediately. Kirk responded with full transparency, detailing every interaction and emphasizing that his focus had shifted entirely to their family. "I'm choosing you and Kai every day," he said, voice steady. "Everything else is secondary." She scrutinized his expression, recognizing in his eyes a consistent pattern of accountability and deliberate effort. It was a stark contrast to the defensiveness and evasiveness that had characterized his past behavior. Over the next several days, Kirk's commitment to rebuilding trust intensified. He immersed himself in Kai's school activities, attending meetings, helping with projects, and participating in sports events. At the bistro, he handled renovations personally, coordinated staff, and addressed client concerns with professionalism, demonstrating that his dedication extended beyond performative gestures to substantive, meaningful actions. Rasheeda observed these efforts with a mixture of cautious approval and tentative hope, gradually allowing herself to engage more openly, sharing small moments of laughter, subtle gestures of affection, and honest dialogue about their future. An unexpected test arrived when a former reality TV cast member attempted to provoke drama, seemingly intent on reigniting old conflicts. Kirk handled the situation with composure, addressing the issue privately and shielding Rasheeda from unnecessary stress. Witnessing his measured response, she felt reassured. It was a quiet but powerful demonstration of his vow in practice. Commitment was measured not only in presence but in integrity, particularly when external pressures threatened to destabilize their fragile equilibrium. Weekend family activities became essential to the process of rebuilding trust. Simple, private moments cooking together, helping Kai with homework, and enjoying leisurely walks allowed Rasheeda to experience Kirk's dedication firsthand. Each consistent action reinforced his vow to never leave, providing tangible evidence of his commitment and gradually restoring confidence in their relationship. Kai, observing these moments, remarked with a hopeful smile, "It feels like we're really a family again." His words underscored the significance of small, deliberate actions in reinforcing the family bond. Midweek, yet another challenge emerged. An online rumor circulated alleging Kirk's involvement in past financial dealings, threatening to reignite speculation and tension. Rasheeda confronted him, demanding clarity. Kirk responded with transparency, providing detailed explanations of his actions and emphasizing that his priorities had shifted entirely to the family. "My focus is on us," he said, "on making things right and staying present every day." Rasheeda, witnessing his consistent behavior over weeks, felt her skepticism soften incrementally. The pattern of accountability and deliberate effort was unmistakable, reinforcing that his vow was not performative but a lived commitment. As the weeks progressed, Kirk and Rasheeda developed a rhythm characterized by intentional communication, shared responsibility, and active participation in family life. Small gestures became monumental, preparing meals together, attending Kai's activities, engaging in honest conversations, and celebrating small victories as a unit. Each interaction, while seemingly ordinary, held profound significance in reinforcing trust and connection. Rasheeda began reciprocating, offering moments of vulnerability, affection, and collaboration, signaling a slow but meaningful restoration of intimacy and partnership. Despite the progress, old shadows remained. Media speculation and online commentary continued, often sensationalized and intrusive. Kirk and Rasheeda faced these pressures together, with Kirk consistently choosing transparency, patience, and accountability over defensiveness or evasion. He managed external challenges in ways that prioritized the family's well-being, shielding Rasheeda from undue stress and demonstrating that his vow to never leave extended beyond private promises. It encompassed public actions, accountability under scrutiny, and resilience in the face of persistent external pressures. In private, Kirk and Rasheeda focused on rebuilding the emotional and relational foundation that had been eroded by years of miscommunication, mistrust, and public drama. Evenings became opportunities for deep conversation, shared planning for the future, and quiet moments of connection. Kai thrived in this environment, observing the gradual, consistent dedication of both parents, which fostered a sense of security and normalcy. Small rituals, like family dinners, weekend outings, and collaborative projects, reinforced the sense of unity and demonstrated that rebuilding trust required persistent, deliberate effort. Kirk's dedication was tested repeatedly over these weeks, yet each challenge was met with deliberate action, accountability, and patience. He addressed logistical challenges at the bistro, navigated media scrutiny, and actively engaged in family life with a focus on presence and integrity. Rasheeda, witnessing these consistent efforts, gradually allowed herself to release the tension that had accumulated over years of uncertainty. Her responses, small gestures of trust and connection, indicated the gradual restoration of confidence in Kirk's commitment. As the weeks turned into months, the Frost household began to stabilize, though cautiously. Kirk's vow to never leave Rasheeda had evolved from dramatic proclamation to tangible, lived reality, expressed through consistent, accountable action and authentic emotional engagement. The family experienced subtle but significant shifts: increased laughter, open communication, collaborative problem-solving, and a growing sense of partnership. These changes, while gradual, marked a profound transformation in the relationship dynamic. By mid-month, the Frost household had achieved a tentative yet meaningful equilibrium. Kirk's consistent presence, deliberate actions, and proactive accountability reinforced the trust he had pledged to rebuild. Rasheeda, responding to the tangible evidence of his commitment, allowed herself increasing moments of vulnerability, collaboration, and engagement. Kai thrived within this stabilized environment, witnessing the gradual transformation of his parents' relationship from tension-filled history to cautious but growing harmony. External pressures, including media speculation and online commentary, continued to hover but no longer dictated the internal climate of the household. Kirk and Rasheeda's commitment to each other, expressed through consistent effort and deliberate actions, created a private reality resilient to external disruptions. Each act of accountability, every shared moment, and each intentional effort reinforced the lived reality of Kirk's vow to never leave. Even ordinary routines became profound demonstrations of commitment. Mornings filled with collaborative breakfast preparations, afternoons spent managing bistro operations together, and evenings dedicated to family conversations collectively rebuilt the relational foundation. Small moments, handshakes, smiles, gentle touches, and verbal acknowledgments acted as incremental affirmations of Kirk's dedication. Rasheeda, responding in kind, began to weave trust, patience, and measured optimism into her daily interactions, signaling a gradual yet powerful restoration of partnership and family cohesion. As the month concluded, the Frost household's narrative had shifted. Where speculation, mistrust, and drama once dominated, deliberate effort, accountability, and consistent action now defined the internal story. Kirk's vow to never leave Rasheeda was no longer performative. It was evident in daily routines, thoughtful interactions, and proactive engagement. Rasheeda's cautious but growing trust demonstrated that consistent, accountable effort could overcome past mistakes, rebuild intimacy, and establish a foundation resilient to external pressures. This period marked a significant transformation. Kirk's commitment had become lived experience, expressed through accountability, presence, and deliberate effort. Each challenge, each minor victory, and every consistent action reinforced the reality that his vow was authentic, rooted in daily practice, and directed toward rebuilding not only his marriage but the foundation of the Frost family. Trust, once fractured, was slowly being restored, and the path toward sustained reconciliation, stability, and enduring partnership had become tangible, deliberate, and undeniable. Throughout these weeks, the Frost household learned that love alone was insufficient without accountability, that promises required consistent action, and that rebuilding a family after public scrutiny and private missteps demanded patience, dedication, and unwavering focus. Kirk's vow to never leave Rasheeda, once a dramatic declaration, had transformed into a lived reality, one demonstrated through deliberate, everyday effort, patience under pressure, and authentic emotional engagement. Rasheeda's cautious but increasing trust illustrated the transformative power of consistent, accountable commitment, marking the evolution of a relationship poised to endure and thrive despite past challenges. In private conversations, shared laughter, collaborative projects, and quiet moments of connection, Kirk and Rasheeda experienced the tangible outcomes of deliberate, ongoing commitment. Kai's observations, small affirmations, and expressions of happiness underscored the impact of consistent parental effort on family stability. Each day, Kirk's dedication to presence, accountability, and integrity reinforced the lived reality of his vow. Rasheeda, gradually opening to trust, allowed herself moments of genuine engagement, signaling the slow but steady restoration of intimacy and partnership within the household. The journey of Kirk and Rasheeda during this period highlighted a critical truth: rebuilding trust required more than words. It demanded deliberate, consistent action, accountability under scrutiny, and authentic emotional engagement. Every interaction, every small gesture, and every thoughtful decision contributed to the gradual restoration of connection, demonstrating that Kirk's vow to never leave was rooted in tangible, daily practice rather than dramatic proclamations. As the weeks turned into months, the Frost household's narrative shifted from tension and speculation to deliberate, intentional rebuilding. Kirk's actions overseeing bistro operations, participating in Kai's life, managing external pressures with integrity, and engaging meaningfully with Rasheeda enforced the authenticity of his commitment. Rasheeda's incremental trust, cautious engagement, and growing willingness to share vulnerability illustrated the effectiveness of consistent effort in restoring relational stability. By the end of this extended period, Kirk and Rasheeda had laid the groundwork for a more resilient, stable family dynamic. The Frost household, once defined by speculation, drama, and mistrust, now operated on principles of accountability, presence, and deliberate engagement. Kirk's vow to never leave Rasheeda had become a lived, daily reality, expressed through action, integrity, and consistent effort, providing a tangible foundation for rebuilding intimacy, trust, and family cohesion. Small daily actions, preparing meals together, attending to Kai's needs, engaging in honest dialogue, and collaboratively managing household responsibilities, collectively demonstrated Kirk's commitment. Rasheeda, observing and participating in these efforts, gradually integrated trust, hope, and measured optimism into her interactions. Kai, witnessing these changes, expressed the subtle but profound impact of consistent parental dedication, reinforcing the significance of Kirk's lived commitment. Over time, the Frost household's internal narrative eclipsed external speculation. The private reality, shaped by deliberate effort, accountability, and daily demonstrations of care, became a resilient counterweight to media-driven drama. Kirk's vow to never leave Rasheeda, once a public statement prone to skepticism, had matured into an enduring, tangible commitment reinforced through consistent, meaningful action. As this chapter concluded, the Frost family had demonstrated that authentic commitment requires persistence, transparency, and deliberate practice. Kirk's vow was no longer theoretical, it was a lived reality, manifested in daily routines, emotional engagement, and consistent presence. Rasheeda's cautious but growing trust, Kai's observations, and the family's gradual restoration of stability illustrated the transformative power of deliberate effort in rebuilding relationships fractured by past mistakes and external pressures. This period solidified the truth that rebuilding trust and intimacy is an ongoing process, one measured not by dramatic declarations but by consistent, accountable action. Kirk's vow to never leave Rasheeda had evolved into a tangible, lived commitment, shaping the household's rhythm, interactions, and emotional climate. The Frost family, through patience, dedication, and deliberate effort, had charted a path toward reconciliation, stability, and the possibility of enduring partnership, demonstrating that promises grounded in action can withstand scrutiny. speculation, and the challenges of rebuilding a family under public observation. With each passing day, Kirk and Rasheeda's commitment to one another became increasingly evident. Small gestures, consistent presence, and deliberate accountability reinforced the lived reality of his vow. Rasheeda, gradually opening to trust, began participating fully in family life, creating moments of intimacy, laughter, and shared responsibility. Kai, thriving in this environment, observed the transformation firsthand. Understanding that deliberate, consistent effort could reshape family dynamics and restore security. As months progressed, the Frost household's internal narrative continued to strengthen. Kirk's vow to never leave Rasheeda had matured into daily practice. Evident in thoughtful interactions, accountability under pressure, and active engagement in family life. Rasheeda's cautious but growing trust reflected the power of consistent, deliberate action in restoring intimacy and stability. While Kai's positive observations highlighted the broader impact on family cohesion, this extended period underscored a central truth. Rebuilding trust and family stability is a deliberate process, requiring consistent action, accountability, and authentic engagement. Kirk's commitment to never leave Rasheeda had transformed from words to lived experience, shaping the household's dynamics, emotional climate, and overall resilience. Through patient, deliberate effort, the Frost family had begun to restore connection, rebuild trust, and cultivate a foundation capable of enduring both past mistakes and ongoing external pressures. The Frost household, once plagued by speculation, drama, and mistrust, now operated on principles of accountability, presence, and deliberate effort. Kirk's vow to never leave Rasheeda was no longer theoretical. It had become a tangible, daily reality reinforced through consistent actions, meaningful engagement, and authentic emotional investment. Rasheeda's gradual acceptance, cautious trust, and measured optimism reflected the transformative impact of deliberate, accountable commitment, signaling a path toward lasting reconciliation and family stability. The ongoing narrative emphasized that true commitment requires more than declarations. It demands action, transparency, and sustained effort. Kirk's daily choices, deliberate engagement, and consistent accountability demonstrated the lived reality of his vow, creating a resilient foundation for rebuilding intimacy, trust, and family cohesion. Rasheeda's cautious but increasing trust, Kai's positive observations, and the household's gradual stabilization illustrated the profound effects of deliberate, sustained effort in restoring relationships fractured by past challenges and external pressures. Through this extended period, Kirk and Rasheeda learned that rebuilding trust, intimacy, and family stability is a continual process. Each deliberate action, moment of accountability, and authentic interaction reinforced the lived reality of Kirk's vow to never leave. Rasheeda's incremental engagement, cautious optimism, and growing willingness to participate fully in family life underscored the transformative power of consistent, deliberate effort, highlighting the path toward lasting reconciliation, stability, and enduring partnership within the Frost household. As months turned into a more sustained period of stability, the Frost family witnessed tangible proof of the effectiveness of deliberate, accountable action. Kirk's vow to never leave Rasheeda had transcended performative declarations, embedding itself in daily routines, consistent interactions, and authentic engagement. Rasheeda's cautious but increasingly open trust, and Kai's observations of stability and consistency underscored the transformative power of sustained, deliberate effort in restoring relationships, intimacy, and family cohesion under public scrutiny and private challenges. Through these months, the Frost household demonstrated that commitment, trust, and stability are cultivated through persistent, accountable actions rather than dramatic statements or fleeting gestures. Kirk's vow to never leave Rasheeda had become a lived reality, reinforced daily through consistent presence, deliberate accountability, and authentic emotional engagement. Rasheeda's incremental trust and active participation reflected the tangible impact of consistent, thoughtful effort, highlighting the possibility of lasting reconciliation and enduring family stability. The Frost family's journey illustrated a profound lesson: rebuilding trust, intimacy, and partnership is an ongoing process requiring deliberate effort, accountability, and consistent action. Kirk's commitment to never leave Rasheeda, once viewed with skepticism, had transformed into a daily practice manifesting in tangible interactions, shared responsibilities, and authentic emotional investment. The household, through careful nurturing of connection, communication, and deliberate engagement, demonstrated that sustained effort can restore relationships, rebuild trust, and create a resilient foundation capable of enduring both internal and external pressures. Throughout this period, Kirk and Rasheeda engaged in deliberate, consistent practices that reinforced the stability and cohesion of their family. Small daily gestures, preparing meals, managing household responsibilities, participating in Kai's life, and engaging in meaningful conversation acted as incremental affirmations of Kirk's lived commitment. Rasheeda's cautious but growing trust, combined with Kai's observations of consistent parental dedication, highlighted the transformative power of persistent, accountable effort in rebuilding relationships and reinforcing family stability. As this extended narrative reached its peak, the Frost household had transitioned from a state of tension, skepticism, and public scrutiny to one characterized by deliberate, accountable, and consistent practice of commitment. Kirk's vow to never leave Rasheeda had matured into tangible reality, expressed through deliberate action, consistent presence, and authentic engagement. Rasheeda's incremental trust and active participation underscored the efficacy of sustained effort in restoring intimacy, confidence, and relational stability within the family unit. The prolonged period of deliberate action, transparency, and consistent engagement reshaped the internal dynamics of the Frost household. Kirk's commitment to never leave Rasheeda became evident in daily routines, shared responsibilities, and meaningful interaction. Rasheeda, witnessing and participating in these consistent efforts, allowed herself increasing moments of vulnerability, collaboration, and trust. Kai's observations further reinforced the household's renewed stability, highlighting the tangible benefits of persistent, accountable, and deliberate effort in rebuilding family cohesion and restoring relational balance. Over time, the Frost household's story shifted definitively from speculation, mistrust, and drama to deliberate, accountable, and meaningful practice of commitment. Kirk's vow to never leave Rasheeda, once a point of skepticism, became a lived reality reinforced through consistent action, integrity, and authentic emotional investment. Rasheeda's cautious but growing engagement signaled the gradual restoration of trust, intimacy, and partnership, while Kai's observations highlighted the broader positive effects on family cohesion and stability. Through this sustained period, Kirk and Rasheeda's relationship illustrated a fundamental truth: rebuilding trust, intimacy, and family cohesion requires persistent, deliberate, and accountable effort. Kirk's vow to never leave Rasheeda had transitioned from dramatic proclamation to lived experience, expressed in consistent, tangible actions and authentic engagement. Rasheeda's incremental trust and active participation reflected the transformative power of sustained, deliberate commitment, signaling a pathway toward lasting reconciliation, stability, and enduring family resilience. Each day in the Frost household became a testament to deliberate effort, accountability, and the lived reality of Kirk's vow. Small gestures, preparing meals together, engaging in conversation, managing responsibilities collaboratively reinforced the ongoing restoration of trust. Rasheeda's growing confidence, cautious engagement, and willingness to participate fully in family life highlighted the tangible effects of consistent, deliberate action. Kai's observations of parental dedication further demonstrated the positive impact of these efforts on family cohesion and relational stability. As the months continued, the Frost household solidified patterns of accountability, presence, and consistent engagement. Kirk's commitment to never leave Rasheeda manifested in tangible routines, deliberate actions, and meaningful emotional investment. Rasheeda's incremental trust, active participation, and cautious optimism reflected the transformative effects of sustained, deliberate effort. The household's internal narrative shifted from speculation, mistrust, and drama to one of deliberate practice, accountability, and tangible evidence of commitment, laying the foundation for enduring reconciliation, family stability, and relational resilience. Throughout this extended period, Kirk and Rasheeda demonstrated that rebuilding a family and restoring trust requires persistent, deliberate, and accountable action. Kirk's vow to never leave Rasheeda evolved into lived reality, evidenced in daily routines, consistent presence, and authentic emotional engagement. Rasheeda's gradual acceptance and active participation underscored the transformative power of sustained effort, highlighting the potential for lasting reconciliation, stability, and enduring partnership within the Frost household. Over time, the Frost family's story became a testament to the efficacy of deliberate, accountable, and consistent effort in restoring relational trust and family stability. Kirk's commitment to never leave Rasheeda, once a source of skepticism, had matured into tangible reality, expressed through deliberate actions, sustained presence, and authentic engagement. Rasheeda's incremental trust and cautious optimism reflected the transformative effects of consistent effort, signaling a pathway toward enduring reconciliation, family cohesion, and relational resilience. The prolonged narrative of the Frost household illustrated a fundamental truth: trust, intimacy, and family stability are rebuilt through deliberate, consistent, and accountable effort. Kirk's vow to never leave Rasheeda had so now. After everything you've seen unfold, it's clear that Kirk's vow to never leave Rasheeda isn't just words, it's a promise lived every single day. But the story doesn't end here. The drama, the challenges, and the unexpected twists could still test their commitment at any moment. Will the Frost family continue to navigate these pressures together, or will outside forces try to shake the trust they've painstakingly rebuilt? Fans are shocked. Emotions are running high, and opinions are divided. Some believe Kirk's dedication is genuine, while others wonder if the pressures of public scrutiny will eventually take their toll. One thing is certain: the stakes are higher than ever, and every choice Kirk and Rasheeda make from this point forward could redefine their family's future. We want to hear from you. Do you believe Kirk's vow is real, or is it just another reality TV spectacle? What would you do if you were in Rasheeda's shoes, balancing trust, love, and the pressure of public eyes? Your thoughts matter, and this is the place to share them. Make sure you hit that like button if you've been following every twist and turn. Subscribe to stay updated on every shocking moment in the Frost family saga. And comment below with your opinions. Who do you trust more, Kirk or Rasheeda? And why? Your engagement keeps the drama alive and lets us bring you even more of the stories that fans can't stop talking about. Stay tuned, because in the world of reality TV drama, nothing is ever as it seems. And the next chapter for Kirk and Rasheeda could be even more explosive than what we've just seen. Don't miss a single update. Join the conversation, share your theories, and be part of the community that knows every secret, every twist, and every heart-stopping moment. Stay gentle, stay wise. You matter more than you know.